This movie's gonna go one of two ways. Either I'm just gonna hate it and I'm gonna love it, or this is gonna just be, oh my gosh.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse with myself, Hoppocalypse, and Itisdpayne.
I realized I didn't have this one ready. I think this is what we were on. Hold on, I will do the Google searching. Now everyone with video capabilities can see me just being like,
glowing.
Yeah. Okay, yes. We didn't read this one yet. Oh my goodness. Mahoro and Mahorori, which is hello, singular and plural, in Shona, which is the language is part of Zimbabwe. And now, time to go back to my natural lighting situation of darkened Twitter.
Bright Google, yes. Yeah, we're here to go on and continue our series of watching movies that I was originally really excited to be able to get through these movies because I didn't get to enjoy these. I really enjoyed the first Predator movie. And then there's this one. But before we get into all of that, let me think. I don't think we have any announcements right now, do we?
No. Nothing to think of.
Okay.
Sorry, I got distracted because the person who did our art for everything on here was posting a bunch of stuff on Twitter. And about 37 seconds ago, it looked like, she was doing Hunger Game challenge stuff. I don't know anything about Hunger Games except people can yell out, I claim tribute, and
I volunteer.
And then kids shoot each other. And so... But
yeah, I also wasn't very big on Hunger Games. Like, I didn't read the books, and I think I watched maybe half of one of the movies.
I tried to read the first book, and then I just got bored. Everyone was like, this is amazing, and I was like, this is boring. But the last but Fangirly, she was writing district team ups. I was just looking at this. Apparently District 2 is Garfield and John DiMaggio as a team. I'm just kind of just scrolling through real quick.
I can see the reflection in your glasses.
Yeah. Stop looking in my eyes. Let's see. Well, I'm just going to do the one that I thought was funny of a team, which is Dale Gribble from King of the Hill. And this is District 12, if that means anything. And his teammate, which I think is just going to win, is Bill Cipher.
Bill Cipher is extremely strong, yeah.
And
he doesn't need to resort to all the physical violence that Hunger Games is. He just goes into Dream World and makes you make contracts, so he wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm just looking through, and I'm I don't know a lot of these characters, but I don't think anything's going to win against Bill Cipher.
Bill Cipher is pretty overpowered. Sometimes when I'm watching other media, and if I see something, I know it's supposed to be in a lot of other media, it's usually Illuminati symbology, but I'll look and go, it's Bill Cipher hiding in there.
I see you.
But yeah, before we started recording the podcast for this episode, and before we jump into Predator 2 and all of the totally not problematic things that this movie represents, I had a story that I was planning on sharing with Itisdpayne. So yes. The other weekend, I think right after we recorded, I decided I felt like going into Philly so that I could go. There's a stationery store that I like, and I had gotten a type of notebook that usually eventually needs refills, and I was like, oh, I have a daily part of the planner, but it only covers 2 months. So I was like, oh, let me go into the city and grab it before the end of July so that I'm ready per August. I'm walking. Everything's fine. I get what I need. I get some extra things. I stop by a used bookstore, all this kind of thing. And then I go to leave. And someone turns the corner, turns and looks at me and shouts, "You got a boyfriend, don't you?" And he kept walking away, and I was walking the opposite direction. It maybe took me like a block and a half for me to register that they were talking to me, for one. And two, he didn't stop to get an answer. He just looked at me and shouted that. And then, like, since we were walking in opposite directions, there were maybe like 4 blocks between us. So I don't know what was supposed to happen, what was meant to happen, but it bothered me on the train ride home.
It's like, how dare you assume I'm in a relationship?
I got home and told Strider, and Strider was like, well, he was right, wasn't he? And I was like, but what was the reason? What was the goal?
And Strider's like, wait a second, are we not in a relationship anymore?
My other friend said I should have said, like, oh wow, you're psychic, man, and then like kept walking. But it's like, it was so sudden, and it was I was probably looking quite miserable because I was smart enough to go walking around in the city during the literal heat wave.
The heat wave, yeah.
Like the literal National Weather Service heat wave. But yeah, so that's my little story. It was short and sweet, and I thought it'd be something fun to laugh at versus I really didn't like this movie, Deep.
I know. Guys, I don't understand. She didn't like the best movie. Okay. Me neither. I didn't like it either.
Best relative to what? Yes.
I will say, I do have something. If we need a quick mood lightener, I will have something. I have something right next to me that can just give us a Predator 2 breather.
Okay.
And so, we'll just have to remember that for like the middle episode. It'll only be like, it won't be long. Oh, well, it might if we riffed on it more, but it will probably be like at most 30 seconds, and then we will go back into it can be our mid Predator
our
breather.
mental break.
Yeah.
It might be good for the viewer or the listeners and viewers, if you are on YouTube or on Spotify, to have a little bit of a break, because I was telling a friend that I've finally watched Predator. He was like, how did you like it? And I was like, oh, it was really interesting. You know, the use of the cinematography, some use of the different layers, and like the message was like clear and concise about what's going on, what to expect. And then the ending was satisfying. He was like, cool. And then I said, so then I watched Predator 2. And they're like, oh, I haven't watched it. How is it? And I was like, it's probably the most racist movie I've watched in a long time. And he went, Predator 1 doesn't really have like, and I was like, there's some things in Predator 1 that are a little suspect, but it's not the main draw. He was like, what's the plot of Predator 2? And all I said was gang wars in LA. And he stopped and was like, where's the jungle? And I said, urban jungle.
Concrete jungle,
Concrete
baby.
Jungle. So.
Well, shall we roll to find out who's going to give the synopsis of this episode?
I hope I roll terribly. Where's my dice app? Okay.
I know. I have to choose carefully. Actually, I'm just going to grab this one because it's closest.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know why you're being happy. I've been rolling rocks. Like that's the lowest I rolled, and I'm pretty sure you rolled a 1.
Not quite a 1. All right, what'd you roll?
I rolled a 6.
I rolled a 4.
Yeah, cursed dice.
Yes. I did not want to give the synopsis for this, so
don't worry. I am the one to do the uncomfy things.
If you want, you can just... So I wrote down movie arcs. Do you want to just say what the 3 arcs are, and then we'll just dive in instead of forcing ourselves to...
I can... Yeah, well, like, that's all I was going to do
Okay.
Is, like, kind of just give a quick synopsis, and then we'll get into what we get into. I'm trying to think... yeah, well, all that stuff can come up later. Hey. So, yeah, the 3 parts of Predator 2. First off, we get a nice sky shot of L.A. in its complete garbage form. You know what? This movie came out in the 1990s. Sorry, I'm already getting
Literally
into
1990. I looked it up.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say, but the S came with it. I'm like, okay, in the late 80s when this was filmed, was like cities, and like in the early 90s, I'm thinking of like other movies from that area, were like cities just complete dumpster fires. Like, I thought in the 90s, like, that's when things were starting to get better.
So when I said to my friend when I was explaining the gang war aspect of the movie, he asked what year it came out. I said 1990. He said there were a lot of action movies that kind of were doing the threat is at home kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why that might be why they lended towards that, because like late 80s 90s, wasn't there a lot of like anti-drug movies and things like that in the action realm?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, we can get into more of that later. So yeah, we come into home. We come into LA where there's a big old gang war happening, and it is like for anyone that hasn't seen this movie, just imagine any of the war movies that come out now where we're over in like Russia or Afghanistan. I think it's probably, well, not Afghanistan, but like in the Middle East somewhere fighting. It is like that, but on the streets of LA. Or a street.
Well, maybe not a main street, but a neighborhood of color in LA that is densely populated. That's where I'll go with that one.
Yep. So we have all that popping off, and then pretty much we have our hero who I should bring up the
Does
wiki.
he have a name? He just yelled a lot. I don't remember his name.
I know it's Danny Glover.
Yes, that's the actor.
As I begin to glow again. There we go.
Lieutenant Mike Harrigan.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the IMDb, and the trailer for Predator 2, the second one, it just has a fun screenshot of Gary Busey. So minimize that. I don't know, don't minimize it. Just bring up something different because I'm tired of glowing. I'll just bring up, wait, I have the wiki on my phone. Or the IMDb page. But anyway, so he goes, and it's just like, it's proving that this guy's a tough guy as he goes and runs. He's like no one can get close, and we got cops down. And then he's like, I'm the main character. I'm not going to die until at least the end of the movie. And makes his wife...
armor, baby.
Yeah, it's the best armor until it isn't. But yeah, so he saves cops, and then he pushed back some people. Well, these guys that are going there to where we'll get into what this gang does later, which I'm like, this is just poor tactics, and a little racist.
More than a little.
I know. And it was. But anyway, and then the Predator shows up. He just looks up, and then like pretty much the first arc is like, I would say kind of the first arc is meeting the characters, where we meet I don't like saying the word problematic, but let's just say they get a new partner, and he is
there's not a single character that I liked in the ones that were introduced to.
I have stuff to say about these characters, but
one I almost liked, and then he's the reason Arc 2 kicks off, but I'll wait for you to.
Yeah, so pretty much it's like meet the groups, and then meet and then just like it's kind of exploring this mystery, if it can even be called that. And so like pretty much like they go in there to the end of Arc 1 is pretty much as Hump and I were sharing things back and forth, some voodoo magic time, which turns into murder time, and from the Predator. And then,
you consider that Arc 2? I considered Arc 2 to be one of the characters we meet, his death. So then with Mike Harrigan, it turns into like a really lazy noir.
I'm trying to remember which character now.
Danny. Because like
yeah. Well, like when they were they interrupted some bonding time, and they hung him from the ceiling.
Yeah, and then like Mike Harrigan goes like, I don't care what everybody says. Cue that for a full hour and a half.
Yeah, and so and like when they go and investigate it, and then wait, is that dude's name Danny? The one he tells to go investigate the apartment?
I think so. Like, I think Danny is supposed to be the equivalent to I'm forgetting his name from the first
Poncho.
movie. Yeah, where he's like,
Or no, Billy, the scout.
yeah, but like the way that Danny phrases things is like spoon feeding it to toddlers about the concepts of what's going on in the movie. But again, we can talk about that when we
That's
get there.
this whole movie. Anyway, let's see.
Yeah, because I mean, like, Arc 2 does include the stuff you're talking about, that we are sending gifts of
Yes.
each other back and forth. But it was just like, I personally thought the kickoff to Arc 2
Arc
is
2
not
was
so much.
that apartment scene. Is that like what you're kind of thinking, or is there something before, or like right before that?
I'd say right before
Like
that.
kind of as it's like, yeah, you meet the boss and it's just like I don't know, I'm trying to bring up the list.
That scene was so shocking when they go into that apartment. Like, it went from, like, I have something to figure out to, like, screaming. And I was like, what?
Yeah. And then I was like turn down the volume. It's like,
Yeah, because I considered Arc 2 just a little bit before. Because I think that's when Mike Harrigan's character development, if you can call it that, kind of shifts from just being a hard-nosed LA cop to instead being like, I have a reason to see this through.
mm-hmm.
So you kind of have a shift in his motivation, if you can call it motivation.
Yes. Okay, yes. No, we were thinking of the same thing. We were just there are other moments of voodoo magic. So
Yes.
Also, you kept saying Mike Harrigan. I'm like, who the heck are you talking about? And I brought the IMDb and Danny Glover's there, Lieutenant Mike Harrigan. I'm like, oh.
The main guy, yes.
Well, I
Anyway,
don't think they ever say his name ever. But anyway, sorry guys, if this sounds disjointed, welcome to Predator 2. So yeah, they do that. And then the second arc is pretty much, yeah, Mike's friend, one of his original crew die, and he's like, we got to get revenge, to where it's just so weird, like they start like tracking Gary Busey, I forget what his name is, but like his people.
I know, I saw Gary Busey and I was like, his teeth.
Yeah. And yeah, like it's just one of those things where I'm just like, this is one of those things where it's just like, the way it's all handled, I'm like, you know what? This guy has a record of being violent towards people. Like, they say it in kind of the last third of the movie. But it's just...
like every 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it's just like, he proves it all the time. And it's just like, would it have hurt to be like... Because, like, all the information that, the government people are giving him is like... I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's just like... You're in over your head. You don't know what you're chasing. And then it's just like, is this how they talked in the late 80s? Wouldn't it have been easier just to be like, hey, this is what we can tell you. Like, this is what we're allowed to tell in public thing. But then again, it wouldn't. That's not a movie from the 80s. There's no logic in 80s movies.
From what I understand, the 80s action film part, because I did watch Die Hard maybe a year ago now or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was kind of asking people about, like, why is Die Hard structured in this way, apparently there was a big push in that set of, like, action movies in that time frame where they wanted it to be, like, blue-collar centered. So then they made a lot of protagonists, the guy that's like, oh, it's the cop. We can all relate to the cop, or we can all relate to just a regular guy. And then for the viewer to be able to relate to someone on the lower rung overcoming and proving that they're smarter than people up above them, then that's kind of like a personal, like, oh yeah, I am smarter than the people above me because they're all worried about red tape. I'm worried about the actual answers, that thing. And I think that's what they were trying to do, but they did it very poorly in this movie.
Yeah. Just hearing that, I'm like, man, I can't wait till we get to the age group where the mainstream... I can't wait till we get to the time where it's just the mainstream, like, protagonists that, like, we all look towards. And what I'm going to say, it's in anime, but it's just... I can't wait to see it, like, a commonplace in a movie genre, like, with real streaming things, is like, oh, man, cat people. I'm going to laugh when it gets to that point. But anyway. So, yeah, they do that. And my brain just reset. So yeah, anyway, Mike Harrigan is like, okay, team, we're gonna hunt these people down. You follow the government people. You, I forget what he tells the girl to look into, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna go with these drug people that just pulled in front of the station. Goes, talks to another dude, and pretty much, I think the arc of part 2 is, everyone Mike Harrigan / Danny Glover talks to dies, except for one, because she's pregnant. Anyway,
I have notes about that.
yeah, I saw that. I'm like, well, I know what we're gonna spend some time on. And then I say the final arc because they start fighting the Predator. Spoilers. And then I realized there's still like 40 minutes left in this movie.
Yeah, I was like, he ends up 1v1ing because, you know, tradition, like, you know, very much Arnold 1v1 the Predator.
Yeah.
And then I looked and I was like, this is a really long arc. Like, they literally cut the movie into thirds.
Yeah. Spoilers for that final fight. I kind of fell asleep.
It's fine because I didn't like how it played out anyway.
But then I woke up. Let's see. I know I kind of fell asleep, and then I woke up again, and they were running through an apartment, and then next thing I know, he was running through a sewer, and then he's on a spaceship, and then I was there, and I'm like, okay. So I don't know how much I actually slept through and how much it was that I was like gathering, but anyway.
It's fine. I can fill in the gaps. It wasn't that exciting.
Yeah. I got problems with that. I got problems with a lot of stuff. But, so yeah, but let's go all the way back to our terrible, terrible journey through this game of Story Arc 1, where we meet the cast.
So before we jump into all of this, I'm going to ask you this. I wrote kind of a list of things that made the movie fun to watch. It's a very short list. Do you have anything in this movie that made it fun to watch for you?
Let me open up my list, because they're... Oh, okay. Big thing. So one thing I started doing was pretty much something that we talked about. I don't know if we mentioned it, what we're doing, but I started giving, just to help re-jog my memory, scores out of 10 next to some of these movies.
Okay.
And so that way I can remember for stuff later. The thing that I really like about this movie is that it made Predator way better in my mind.
Like the creature? Or
No, the first movie.
It makes the first movie a true masterpiece and put next to this.
Yes. Like okay, I should say the first Predator, like everyone's like, wow, he hated the first. I thought the first Predator was really good. And
it looks even better now.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was a year that I was going to try and go through and watch a bunch of horror movies, like all through October, before we even started doing this podcast. And I told myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch one good horror movie and one bad horror movie to cleanse the palate. Because I was like, comparing Alien and The Thing is hard because they're both very good, but they're both very different. So what if I watch Alien and then I watch Avalanche Sharks and then I watch The Thing? Alien and The Thing are going to look so good.
And then it's just like, no, all we had to do was watch Predator 2.
Watch that in between every movie.
Let's see. I'm just scanning through my notes. My notes are a list of complaints.
That's fine. Like, I try to do a balance of both because we said we were going to try and look at which movies we enjoyed watching. So I really dug through and tried to find things that I thought were not the absolute garbage.
I'm trying to think. Well, why don't you share some, and then maybe it will spur my memory.
Okay, so my list is very short. I said things that make the movie fun to watch. I said at least there's explosions. Good start, right?
Yeah.
Then
You're not
underneath
wrong.
of that,
there's tons of explosions.
I wrote the question: was the entire budget spent on guns and explosions, and none on a focus group to watch and critique this? I liked that there were mean journalists that are anti-government and anti-cop. They were very entertaining
2022
to me.
of you.
Yeah, how 2022 of me. The acting was very fun to laugh at. Tony Pope, do you remember that character?
Was he
He's the journalist who does alliteration.
From Hardcore News or whatever it was.
I wrote, is this an unintentional comedy? Question mark.
Yes.
And then my favorite scene
Comedy of
that
errors.
my favorite scene that I don't know if you were awake for was the main character realizing he has literally no shot. Do you remember that scene? It's during the 1v1 fight, and Danny Glover, he puts two and two together. It's not the... It is right before the 1v1. It's when they're in the... This is going to sound so weird without us talking about the full context of the movie, but they're in the meat packing facility.
I think I didn't remember parts of that.
And then things happen, and Danny Glover's left alone with the Predator, and Danny Glover looks back and forth and gets this wide-eyed look and just starts scrambling up a ladder, like full-on panicking. I was like,
I did see that. Yeah.
I was like, that's the most realistic thing that's happened this entire movie.
I did see that part. Yeah.
So that's my list of things that I thought.
Let's see. Explosions, that was definitely fun. Like, here's the thing, like, besides, like, just themes and tones in this movie that they cover, I didn't like, just everything that was good about Predator 1, they ignored.
It felt like they were like, oh, I know what makes Predator 1 good. It's Predator. It's like...
Yeah.
Yes and no. There's a lot more nuance to the first movie than just monster.
They do a scene where it's kind of like Predator 1, where they're looking at the skyline to see if they could see him. Like, because at this point, it's like, I think it's kind of in the middle of the movie. I can't remember where it is, where they're looking, and it does a scene where it's just kind of like scanning the rooftops and stuff, and they don't see anything. And they're just like, oh, am I going to see the Predator or not? But I wasn't expecting to see the Predator within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. I do believe... I forget what year the Alien movies were also coming out, but I heard someone else say to me that they thought that, depending on when they were released, they thought 84? That Predator 2 was trying to cop the Alien 2 formula, where... I was told... I haven't watched Alien 2, or if I have, it's been a long time.
Oh my goodness. Alien 1 came out way before the year I said it. 1979.
Okay. What year did Alien 2 come out?
Give me 1 second. I'll look that up. You can keep talking. I'll let you know when I find it.
But basically that Alien 2 really leaned into the action aspect because you knew, going into another Alien movie, you know what it is. So they just lean into the action aspect. And the person I was talking to was like, maybe Predator 2 was trying to riff off of Alien 2 and try to go the action route, but just did not get the right set of directors and staff to make it actually work.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, if I click this, can I go back to the...
Oh, yeah. Alien 2 came out in 1980.
1980. Okay.
So Predator 2 is about 10 years late to the Alien sequel game. Because what Predator 1 was...
79.
79. Oh, it was also 79?
Oh, Predator 1? No, that was 83?
87.
87. I'm just all off on my years. But,
yeah, but other than the things I listed, can you think of anything else that made it entertaining for you? Because it was very hard for me to be entertained through this. I was watching out of spite, I think, after like the first 15 minutes.
I'm trying to remember. There was like a part that made me laugh, but it was more like okay. And then I can't remember what it was. It feels like this. Okay, so this feels like kind of how I feel about a lot of movie remakes when they take a really good movie, like a good movie from the 80s or early 90s or even 70s, and they're like, we're going to remake this. And like that was kind of the 2010s. Well, actually, there's 2015 to 2019 pretty much. I felt like there was a lot of movies, which actually there is a study, not a study, but there was a thing on there where they found out that Americans weren't going to movies, and so the reason why we were seeing a whole lot of these movies that were being remade is because a lot of Hollywood a lot of companies were being bought by China, and over there China did not allow foreign movies for a long time, And then at that time, they kind of started allowing movies coming in, which is why we started getting all these remakes. And they're like, well, why rewrite new things? America's not watching them. Just take the classics that did really well in America, update them, and send it to China.
Oh, because it is a big market there, because it's a very large populace. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why we were getting a whole bunch of remakes. But this feels like kind of how I think when I look at Dredd compared to Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, and then Dredd with I forget. I don't know. It's one of the guys I think who's in The Boys that plays him.
Okay.
Carl Urban. Sorry, I watched the first 2 episodes of The Boys and I didn't like it. Everyone's like, you gotta watch it more. It's satire. I'm like, no, it's just dumb. Anyway,
I really like The Boys, but
I don't know. I'm gonna try to get through season 1, but I'm like, I'm in the first 2 episodes and I'm like, this isn't gathering my attention. But I can go into this more later.
Yeah, this is not. We're here to focus all of our anger towards Predator 2.
But this
it felt like a cheesy, cheap remake to you.
Yeah. So now that we stopped trying to give it the light, at least make it feel good about its very poor things. Okay, so I was also thinking this movie was going to be better because one of the guys in the room was like, I liked Predator 2 a lot. And then in the middle of watching this, I'm like, you liked it because the dude's a cop, and so were you.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, you wanted to start with Arc 1.
Yeah, let's start with Arc 1. And then I'll ask, every time when we get to Arc 2, I'll ask, do we need the breather?
Okay. So, yeah, like you said, Arc 1 is very much meet the characters. The characters are a cast of cops that don't feel like real people. You have the main character whose job is only to yell at people, have extreme plot armor, because as I described to some people, the scene that blows my mind is they have all the news and they're explaining that the gang war is so bad, there are cops dead in the streets that no one can save, and the SWAT can't do anything. Like, it's that whole extreme thing. He and his buddies get into a regular sedan, put cop vests on windows, he drives it up, blocks apparently all of this stuff, and then is able to save the cops and becomes a hero. And
just
when
come on
yeah, we gotta go. And someone was asking me, they're like, oh, what kind of guns are they using? Because those like bulletproof vests only work, I think they said, like mostly like handguns. Like if the gang war was full of rifles and stuff, it's a completely different caliber. It's not like the same thing. I said, don't worry, they have grenade launchers that can flip cop cars. And he said, but not that car. I said, not that car. No. That's the plot armor car.
Yep. That right there brings me to point 1 out of however many points I wrote. Why are they having interviews and just having random news reports literally in eye shot of the ongoing fight? And there's just like, there's a lady doing a news report and then a gunshot happens and she's like, what? And just like, get me out of here. It's like, lady, you are standing right behind the gunfight. Bullets don't stop just because. It's like, you deserve
just because there's a camera.
Yeah. And then it's just like the guy for Hardcore News or whatever his name is, which sounds like one of those conspiracy YouTube channels, which you see what he does and you're like, oh, okay, he's kind of. Anyway, so he's just there and then he just sets the scene, and then I'm like, oh, there's our hero coming in late. I don't know what he was doing, but
probably getting yelled at by his superiors, which gets done to him a lot in this movie.
And then the second question I wrote about this thing, which I originally write, why is Danny Glover, but this would also go for, why does Danny Glover and his whole crew, why do all their pistols and like magnums have scopes on them?
It's like, were they trying to be like future tech? Because it looks so clunky. It looks like someone molded these onto like actual guns.
This feels
so
like
weird.
These guns that they had, like the guns they gave like the main crew, feel like they were made by someone that never touched a gun.
Yeah, like the scope wouldn't help you at all.
Yeah, like I have fired guns. I handled a bunch of guns of a bunch of different calibers and all that stuff. The gun that, like, on any handgun, you're not gonna put a scope. Actually, whatever, I don't remember her name, but like the girl of the group, she had something that made sense. Like, she had a laser sight on the bottom of hers.
Leona, I think her name was.
But like I remember there was like in the early thing, it was like it showed like she had like a sight on the bottom, or like kind of like Resident Evil 4, like where they got the little laser guide on the bottom. Like it showed that she had one of them. Never really used it, but she had one. And then like other people had scopes. Let's see. Handguns with scopes. Okay. Let's see what pops up. Oh, okay, so this apparently was a thing. I can't tell if it's real. Okay, it looks, from what I'm looking at. Okay, so it looks like it is like there are ones that are there, but it's
okay.
Like,
they looked so clunky in the movie.
Yeah, but it kind of looks more. I don't know how it would work. It looks like they're more red dot rather than like the one that looked like they just took a sniper rifle scope
and put it on this little handgun.
Yeah, like a lot of them. Okay, so this looks like it is a thing, but I'm just like, a lot of them just seem to be like kind of the red dot kind of thing with a little glass thing, but there are scopes. I don't know what they would use it for. I could probably text somebody and ask them real quick. Maybe,
but yeah, that was weird. But
I'll just look it up. Like, why do handguns need scopes? But yeah, we can keep talking.
So let me think of what else was going on in that scene. I guess the next natural thing to do would be actually go into when we meet the characters, and I feel like instead of you researching, you should be involved in that bit.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like. Okay, so apparently this was a wave in the late 80s, which is when this movie would have come out.
Okay, it would have been filmed in, like, yeah.
So, okay, so scopes, considerations. Oh, never mind. It was saying, like. Okay, yeah. So pretty much, if you're going to use a scope, it would be the same way you would use like a sniper rifle. You would have a mount and stuff. So.
Weird. All right. So then, you ready to talk about the actual cast of characters we're forced to follow along in this godforsaken movie?
All right. Let's start off with one. Angry Danny Glover.
Yes, Angry Danny Glover. We've already kind of hinted at it. He yells. He's violent. He's known to be violent. He somehow still has a job. He refuses to listen to authority.
Surprisingly enough, he doesn't turn in his badge.
Yeah, he never does that and says, like, I'm a rogue cop or anything. He just decides, like, I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and you can keep reaming me out, but I'm right and you're wrong. And I think I wrote down, I at least liked Arnold's character in Predator. Am I supposed to like this main character? Question mark.
No.
No, yeah, okay. As long as it wasn't just me.
No, I don't know. I don't think there's really any character I liked. There's characters that made me, like, I'm like, this character doesn't fit in this movie. I'm like, when do we get to Pirates of the Caribbean 2? Anyway,
yeah, so we have him, and then we have, I guess, the main girl, the only girl character that isn't a journalist, or being sexually harassed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, she does good. No,
I remembered the scene that I liked. Okay, I will.
Okay, the scene that you liked.
I'll wait. I'll bring it up in the next part. Like, it's in part 2, so I'll save it for there.
So we have her. She's supposed to be the everybody knows she's like someone you don't mess with kind of character, but like they don't really establish her as a character other than she can speak Spanish, which is important later, and she harasses people in her office, and everyone laughs about harassment in the office because she's getting annoyed by the worst character, in my opinion, the guy that is they wanted to bring back the guy that tells terrible jokes, but they didn't kill him fast enough.
Yeah.
Because he starts to make a joke about, like, stabbings and murders, and then he hits on everybody, and then he, like, makes, like, misogynistic jokes at people. Like, after the lady character harasses or like grabs him by the balls because he's being annoying and physically harasses him in the office space, which everyone laughs at. He walks in to meet the main character and goes, "What, is she on the rag?" And I was like, please die, please die, please die. I want you dead so dead.
And then Danny Glover, it's like the most calm he's ever been. He's like, "You just gotta listen." And it's just like that scene shift was hilarious to me because they're all like, he's like, "Oh, look him go." Like first, like Danny Glover's character gets yelled at by his boss, like in the police station, and then he's just like, really, oh, I'm pissed off. And then like his two partners are just like, "Yeah, there's a new guy," and he's just like, "Oh my goodness," and just like as the guy keeps trying to introduce himself, and he's just like, "Whatever, I'll talk to you later," thinking he's like a reporter. Another thing that stuck out to me is that every movie from this time, the police stations are just filled to the brim with people.
It's not just any people. They're
yes.
only filled with people of color or obvious sex workers because misogyny and racism. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But there's no like it's just
there's not enough people working, and there's it's just rampant apparently.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, they go do that, and they're all pushing people around and all that stuff, and then like while everyone's struggling to like have some sort of order between this, then there's Captain Jerk McGee, I forget his name, is just hitting on some random cop, and then is trying to get like just to be let known, and then they're like in his little side office as it shows that he's hitting on main girl. Mm-hmm. And she grabs his balls and all that stuff, and they're all like, "Yeah, look at him go, he got owned." And then he's just like, "Okay, send him in." And then the guy's like, "Okay, the boss will see you now." And then he's just like, "Yeah," and he's, as you were saying, like he says his line, and then it cuts to Danny Glover, where it's just like, did the sun move? Like, did he? It's like while they were out there, it was like I just imagine Danny Glover's like, "Oh, we gotta adjust the lights, turn these lights down," just like
it's serious time. Because, like, Danny Glover gives this whole speech about, like, nobody requests to get moved to this office. Yeah. I think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, and then
he's like, "No, I'm just a good investigative person. I can sneak around and get you all the info you want." And I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Oh, wait. I know I wrote a note on this because there's a whole thing. Okay. So, hold on. We got to rewind real quick.
Okay.
So... where I wrote, so my third point in this is all within like the first like 15
minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes before we met this guy. My third point is, what is the thought of drug use in the middle of this fight? Like, how's that supposed to help you?
Yes. So, yeah, rewinding to the whole car scene bit, they keep repeatedly showing, because apparently they claim it's a Colombian drug cartel versus a Jamaican drug cartel fighting over turf. And they keep flashing back to the Colombians. They're like, "Oh, we have to get ammo." And by ammo, I mean cocaine. So much so that we waste so much product because it's in the air. We're not even really snorting it. And then we just show off terrible depictions of people. I think my like fifth point. Okay, so my... I have a list of things that make the movie not fun to watch. I wrote, "It's set in LA ? The sound mixing is a ... choice.
Sound mixing was terrible.
Overuse of heat cameras in the very beginning. Gang wars ? Found footage shots ? And then my next bullet was terrible depictions of people of color. How does every panning shot feel incredibly racist? Actually, the whole plot is racist. Why is this so racist?
You want to know my fourth point I wrote down?
What?
This is really dumb. It's written there. I don't know if it will zoom in.
It's not focusing.
Come on.
It's not focusing.
Ugh.
But I can kind of tell. Oh, it focused for a second and then it gave up again.
Now I got lines on my camera. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's written there. But yeah, so yeah. That was my thought on the majority of this movie.
Yeah. And then
that's when I messaged you, I think, when I wrote that. I'm like,
you might
I was already kind of expecting it. I was like, this movie's going to go one of two ways. Either I'm like, Hop's going to hate it and I'm going to love it, or this is going to just be, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I think I messaged Dpayne and I said, this is the longest 10 minutes of my life.
I think we messaged each other at the same time. Like, not at the
same timestamp.
At the same time.
Of the movie.
I'm just like, I think I wrote, this is really dumb, and then hold on, let's see.
We can go back to the Discord messages.
Yeah. Okay, because let's see.
So I started watching this Sunday.
Yeah, and then I found mine. It's like, yeah, 12:08. Okay, for real. What the dump is this movie? And then it was like, you answered back. It was like, it's really bad, huh? And then I messaged about an hour and a half later when I finished it. And it was like, I have some issues with this movie. Saturday's going to be fun.
Yeah, so when I first watched it, I said, I'm like 2 minutes into it. I've written down 3 things that I dislike already. Oh, no. And you got excited. And I said, this has been the longest 10 minutes of my life. Mm-hmm. And then you checked in on me. You said, did you survive the movie? I said, did I live? Yes. Did I come out with the same number of brain cells? I'm not so sure.
So, anyway, we should also, looking at the time, we should probably
keep scooting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last character that we meet is Danny, which is he's the only reasonable character, but he is so poorly written. Anytime something interesting happens that, Predator 1 was good at letting the audience learn of the characters. Danny goes, if you try to lift someone up to that height, you wouldn't be strong enough to hang them upside down because he's got to weigh this much. So this can't be a person. I was like, Danny, please shut up. We get it, Danny. Yeah. Danny, we get it.
Yeah, it's... So, one of the things that really bothered me about this movie is timing of things. Mm-hmm. Because it seemed like as we mentioned before, it's just like, all right, looking back at our conversation last week, in Predator 1, we don't actually see the Predator until at least the halfway point, if not later in the movie.
Right. They build up to, they actually build suspense.
Yeah, and this one, they're just like, we need to get this dude in here as fast as possible. Which I remember multiple times just wondering, well, in the first movie, we knew what the Predator was doing. It was hunting these dudes.
It had a very good balance of switched perspectives, yeah.
And this one is just like, what did Danny Glover's character do that made him want to, hunt down everyone this guy talks to? Is it because he saw him in the beginning of the movie and is just like, well, that's good enough for me? And it's like, the things that we praised the Predator for in the first one, where it's like it's an intelligent being, and it's and just there's a little bit of honor and just wants all this stuff and wants a good hunt. This one, it just throws it all out the window. And then it's it felt like kind of just to skip forward to the end, they kind of get to the Predator, and then they're in that final fight, they're oh wait, the Predator can be hurt. Hey, he got hurt now he's gonna do surgery in the middle of fighting. So it's just
yeah. Now that you mention the time, I look at the time for how long we've been talking about this. Are we gonna have to do 2 parts to this? Because we barely scratched the surface of the first arc.
Oh man.
I know. That's your call.
We can. Let's just. When do you gotta head out? You got.
I was gonna say I probably have another hour, but I know you said that
rendering
the thicker they get.
Yeah, but we have enough time, and then I can just set this to go. Like, it's, I don't want to spend more than one episode on this movie.
Okay, so let's fast forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the first arc is pretty much that.
It's pretty much
Danny-
just meet the people, and then
Danny gets killed.
Yeah, and then, like, as we were saying, it kind of, there's the only other thing that, like, kind of is an ongoing theme in the second in the second movie is, like, kind of this voodoo magic dudes that just randomly show up. I still don't understand why they show up in this part of the scene. They just like, hey, these two people are banging. Let's have a voodoo ritual. And it's like,
yeah, so that I want to spend a little bit of time
Yeah.
on. So yes, so you have this whole setup of like LA cops, hard, tough, blah blah blah, and then the next, I forgot. Yeah, that scene does technically happen before Danny dies because Danny finds out too much. But anyway,
Yeah.
so it cuts. There's literally no time to register what's about to happen. They like pan into a building and this lady is just screaming in a way that's not realistic for two people that are going at it, as we would say. And they're completely naked. And then, you know, if you already had problems with how they depicted the Colombians, which I'm pretty sure none of those actors were Colombian, if I had to take a guess, then they decide to take it to the next extreme and terribly like create caricatures of Jamaican people to the point where like they're not wearing real clothes. It just seems that they like went to like a vintage shop and were like, that's a snake head, let's paint it gold and say it's Jamaican. Oh, let's put them in like these weird outfits. And then they were like, they kept saying voodoo magic, and I'm like, but that's not what that's not that's not and they start.
Oh, sorry, just a quick cut in. I was like, when they had him hung up and they were just doing around there, I wrote literally on my phone, just like, what are they, witch doctors now? And then they're like 2 seconds later, the person's like, we're doing the voodoo magic, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's a terrible representation on everything. Anyway, so yeah, so then the Predator comes in and goes, LOL, I kill people, and the worst part is his weapons are visible. What's the point of invisibility if they're like, oh, that's a giant spear? What is that gonna do? It's gonna kill you. What else is it can tickle you?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I felt like this in this movie, they were like, hey, we found a bunch of like cool tech things that not the alien, I forgot his name, the Predator would have. And they're like, yeah, they're cool things, but it's just at the same time, it's like, whoa, that just like, look at all these cool upgrades. And then it's just like, boom, boom, and then it happened.
So then, there's lots of murder. The main character and Danny and them are on the scene, and they're like, nobody's allowed here. And then the lady only speaks Spanish, so then the main lady character gets to be important and goes, basically redoes the scene, trying to say like, it doesn't make sense. She says like it's this thing. It came from this guy. I'm like, yeah, we already did that in Predator 1, where you had the bad translation from the lady about what the creature is.
And then they just got rid of that lady.
Yeah, and then she just disappears, and then Danny finds a pointy thingy, and they bring the pointy thingy to some scientist lady who does the very obvious like B-movie, well, you see, this is synthesized from a material that does not exist on this material plane. I don't know what this is. And everyone goes, I'm so shocked. And I'm like, please.
The only other thing that I think is something that's important to show, that I think is like maybe one of the neat things they do with the Predator in this one, is in the first movie we see a little bit that the Predator can record and replay voices.
Yes, they do emphasize that a bit more.
Which it's just like, just looking at it, I'm like, okay, I think this one will definitely get the most points for that one if they could have chose the most creepy thing to say. Which is like, I can't remember if it's in this one or a different later scene where like the Predator runs into a kid and the kid's like, you want some candy? And then, oh no, that's later. That's when the graveyard scene.
Yeah.
But like, it shows it earlier where he recorded something Danny Glover's character says, and like that,
and uses it in the apartment, right?
Yeah, and that's how he gets
Jamaican gang.
Well, no, that's how he kills Danny.
Oh yes, he lures out Danny. Yeah, that's
and
right.
then that's when he kills Danny, and then that's through there. Like, this Predator is just really dumb.
It's making a lot of decisions that the first Predator would definitely not make.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Which there is something that a later movie, I think, does explain a little bit, which I can get into it later because it is something that will show up near the end of the movie.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, it's just like they're like, oh yeah, because the whole point is like the Predator saw him pull out that weapon, and then it's like, oh yeah, you can keep it. I just wanted to kill you. but yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
and then from there, it kind of kicks off the second part.
Yeah, so then it's like a terrible noir where it's a lot of Danny Glover's character fighting with higher up government, where the government's like, we have a plan, don't step on our toes, and Danny Glover's like, I'm gonna kill it, I'm gonna kill the thing, kill, murder, murder, kill, murder. And I'm like, okay, this is a back and forth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, the thing for the second arc specifically that I would like to spend time on is the train scene. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before the train scene?
Let me just see. The train scene actually has the scene that made me laugh in it.
Okay.
Let me see. The only other thing that I would say that it felt like comparing it, because I couldn't help like just compare this to P1, but
You should, yeah.
Yeah, but P2, like in the first section, was just like, it felt like it's like these guys are the elites. Like they wanted, or not the elites, but these guys are good at their job, and they kind of showed like in the beginning of where it's just like Danny Glover's character of just pushing forward and all that stuff, and trying to do all these different things, and like he's doing things that other cops couldn't. This is weird. I'm looking over and it says that Arnold Schwarzenegger is trending right now. Anyway, but it's just like this is a completely different scene from P1, where it's just like you get that scene, and throughout the whole movie, you can tell that Arnold's crew is super highly trained. They've worked together for years, and it's like the P2 crew. Yeah, they worked together for years, but they're like it felt like they tried to give them like these are elite cops kind of feel, and it's like no, they're not. They're angry, bumbling buffoons that like.
Oh, I know what shot you laughed at. I'm gonna take a guess because I also laughed at it too because I was like, whose idea was this? Anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else. And the only other thing I wrote was like, this Predator seems much less concerned about stealth and hunting, and is just more like, I'm gonna murder everybody.
Yeah, and like the first one seemed to be very deliberate and very planned and thought out about who it thought would be important to hunt, and this Predator is just like, is that a weapon? I think that's a weapon.
Yeah.
Love me little things. Like I thought he was gonna kill a child at one point.
This is okay. So once we got to the train scene, this is when I stopped nitpicking because I have like 5 points of like I can't move on like while watching this movie. So this is what I wrote, where it's just like, oh, okay. I'll start with this, where it's just like, if I hear blank is my specialty one more time, and then I think as soon as I wrote that, it was never said again. But then. And then it's like, this Predator seems, as I just said, much less concerned about stealth and hunting. Is much more about ripping people apart. And then my next one is like, in the first movie, and this in comparison to 2, everything was grounded in witness reports and learning while running or escaping. In P2, is a more of a drug-fueled and unreliable sources in a city that look... like in the city that looks in a way worse shape than that jungle ever did, and they blew up half of it. And then like these kills like seem much less trying to take out like a is much less of a hunt, more, as I said earlier, is like Glover talked to someone, I'm gonna kill that person. And then my final point before my first point of the train scene, because as soon as we get to the train scene, I stopped ranting. I'm just like, I'm kind of just done. Where it's just like, this movie seemed more to show off new CGI and camera tech than tell a story.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I get that vibe.
And what I wrote, all my whole notes that I wrote about the train scene is Train to Busan did the train scene better.
Every movie did the train scene better. As far as I've seen it in my lifetime.
Okay,
But anyway.
so what was your guess of the scene that made me laugh?
The guns.
Yes.
Yes. So what we have... one of the pivotal points of Arc 2 is guy who makes terrible jokes and only main lead female character get on a train watch sexual harassment happen, then watch what we're supposed to presume as another form of a gang that's never introduced to us, but a gang of people saying like, hey, give me your money, to which a guy pulls a gun out of his briefcase, and once he pulls a gun out of his briefcase, a member of the gang pulls out a gun, to which everybody in the train pulls out a gun, and then the cops with a gun go, no, put away your guns. And I was like,
Well, it's just, I think it was just like how it was cut, because it was just like, we spent more time on these characters that like literally don't matter, and they're just like these guys like there's being bullies, and they're just like, yeah, and like I don't even remember why the cops are on the train to begin with, but
they're going somewhere.
And then they're just like, get out of my way, as like, I don't know,
I'm the cop with the gun, put away your gun.
but like the whole thing is just like the nerd guy like pulls out his gun just like, and then the gang guy says like, this, and then he was like, my gun's bigger. It's like, who's gonna stop you? And then it just does a cut to like everyone else in the train pulling out like these just handguns, and I'm just like, yeah, these were the movies that kind of went out. No wonder everyone thinks Americans have guns.
Yeah,
which at that time I think a lot of people did.
I don't think you
not
should have been allowed to bring them on a subway in that extent.
I don't know when concealed carry happened. I don't know.
But that's still state by state.
Yeah,
it's
state by state. But the other thing is like at that time period and like with the state of that city, I wouldn't like in the movie like, yeah, no, it makes sense everyone have a gun, because it's like, because I do remember there was like a part, like at least in New York history, where before like the cops kind of, I think it was ComSec, is that what it is? I don't know. They had like a whole system, which now they're still running off of that, which I remember listening to a podcast about it, of like how New York cops like kind of started cleaning up and like kind of getting rid of a lot of things on that were just like threatening life in New York. And so anyway, but it was just like, yeah, the cops will get there, but it's like the crime will already be over and the people will be gone, and so that's why people like would carry guns. And that's a whole nother argument that we're not here. We're here to make fun of terrible movie today.
Yes. My note for the train is, what the fuck is happening on the train?
Yeah. They tried to give Jerkface McGee, whose name I can't remember and I don't really care, they're like, here's his redemption arc. Well, he's like, I'm gonna hold the predator backyard when you escape. Yeah,
so it's a lot of like strobing lights flashing like on and off of lights as the predator goes after the gang at first.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of shots of like their bodies being thrown around and all this stuff, and everyone's like, I can't see what's happening. Like they're literally screaming, I cannot see what's happening.
Yeah.
And then Jerkface McGee goes up, tries to stop it. Surprise, surprise, he finally dies. It didn't happen soon enough.
You know what? Sorry to cut you off, but you know what would have made this scene, like, would have gave this whole train scene more validity than girl pregnant can't kill? I
was about to get there, but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It would have been Jerkface McGee if he actually shot the predator and then we saw the blood.
Yeah, we had some build-up like we did in the old movie. Because like
one of the things I wrote is like, this predator seems more like an unstoppable force in this one.
Yes. One of my final notes was, wait, throughout the entire movie, did everyone else miss every single shot?
Well, no, because I think it showed like it reflect like sparks or something like that. Like I thought, but I could be wrong. But
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I could have missed that detail. But one of the things I did write is so we get to the point where he goes up to the female cop and he picks her up and like scans her, and I was like, why is he scanning her heart? Did he rip out hearts in all the other movies? I thought he just wanted the skull and the spine.
Mm-hmm.
And then in capital letters, pregnant, question, exclamation, exclamation, question, exclamation point, because apparently he lets her live because she's pregnant.
Predator's pro-life.
Yeah, and it was just like a really weird moment. They're like, get her to an ambulance. We detected a prenatal heartbeat, which I've heard is like, but we've detected a heartbeat. We got to get her out. And the main character's like, pregnant? And I was like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah, but it's just, the other thing is like,
she had a gun. She was supposed to die, right?
Yeah.
By Predator lore.
Yeah, by Predator standards. But then I guess, in fact, there was a life that couldn't defend itself. It was like, okay. But the other thing is, it's like, she showed no signs of pregnancy, and it's like the image.
And she's putting her life on the line,
Yeah.
like all of this, yeah.
But then that was like, it showed like the thermal scan and ultrasound of that. I'm like, that baby is like, the picture they showed, like, that's at least like months. There's like features that are developed on that baby, and it's just like, it's like, she showed no signs. Is like, I'm sorry, there is going to be like swelling at that point.
Something should be visible, yeah. So
the toughest pregnant woman I've ever saw.
Would you consider them interacting with the government officials Arc 2 or Arc 3 of the movie?
The government officials right after the train scene?
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of the start of 3, because it's a
3. That's what I thought,
it's
too.
like a tone shift.
Confronting the Predator.
Okay, I will ask, do we need a quick breather?
Make it short. We're over an hour, buddy.
It is. I got a new water bottle. It's the size of my head.
Yeah, if you don't have the pleasure of looking at this on YouTube or Spotify, it is... How many ounces is that?
That's a whole gallon. So
literally, it's advertised as a whole gallon?
Hold on, I don't have light this way. It is 128 ounces.
That's a lot.
It was really hot, and I ordered something off of Amazon, and then I was like, well, is there anything else I need? And then I looked and saw that water bottle. Like, I like that brand, and I was like, wait, they have big one. Oh, let's get this one. And so I did. And then I didn't mean to get it the same color as an Estus flask from Dark Souls. But, yeah. I used it yesterday at work, and, well, I had to pee a lot more.
Stay hydrated, friends.
Yeah. So that was it. That was the quick, let's just take a breather from this. And now we're back into...
Arc 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this turns into...
Info dump.
Yeah, they've decided that they've gotten everything they need to know about the Predator, even though a bunch of people have died in the process of learning about the Predator, and have decided that now is the time to go after it. Do you have any specific notes in this section? Because you said you kind of chilled out with your notes.
Yeah, so let's see. The one thing I did say is, like, even though... This is, I guess, another thing as I'm reading through there. The one thing I did think was nice was they did take information from from P1, and they're like, this is what we learned. And it's just like, there's all these things, and so it shows, at least from a government perspective, even though it doesn't seem like they're the most, like... It seems
competent.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, we've learned things, and then even though they aren't able to take take advantage of it. It kind of felt like using technology to fight technology, but the space alien with cloaking technology is able to have better technology, which never crossed their mind. They should have just had mud. But to be fair, I think in this whole movie, I don't think I saw a tree. There's no gardens or... It's
all concrete, baby.
Yeah, you can't have green in the concrete jungle. Yeah, it's so we leave the train right away, and Danny Glover is chasing the Predator throughout the city, and then magically ends up back at his car, and then chases him some more, and then gets knocked out by governments to where they info dump, and they're like, yeah, and you're gonna stay here. And then, well, no one wanted to listen to Danny, as he's just like, he can see you. I don't know why the whole people's job to be on the, like, to let people know is just like, oh, the thing's moving on. He's just like, it's behind you.
Get him out of there. Get him out of there.
He froze.
Yeah, my big takeaway from the scene of the government info dumping is capital letters scent molecules.
Scent? Oh, I think I might have missed
Do you not remember that? They said that they can only track the Predator via its scent molecules, and that's how they have quote-unquote thermal imaging, even if it's invisible. And I was like, scent molecules? and that the fact that the predator, for some reason, in the whole global Earth, and there's plenty of food. There's lots of food options.
Mm-hmm.
He apparently comes back to the same exact meat packing factory in LA to only eat frozen cows. And he does this all the time. And I'm like, so he wastes people? He doesn't even eat the people? He scalps and stuff? I mean, they do show a ritual bit of him, like, cleaning the skulls, but I was just like...
Well, in the first movie, he never ate them.
He never did, but, like, they never implied that he needed to eat.
Yeah.
Like, I assumed he had, like, provisions, or he did something, like, alien-like. Maybe he had, like, what plants do, and they, you know, live off of sunlight. But in this one, they're like, he eat cow. Not live cow. Dead cow. Frozen cow. Cow in freezer. He always comes back to this particular meat packing plant.
Yeah.
And they hint at it, like, somewhere else where they're like, this has the same stuff. Oh, I think it's the lady scientist that talks about the metals that aren't of this earth. But she's like, it's weird. Do you guys go to a slaughterhouse for funsies? And they're like, what?
Yeah, it's I don't know. The info dump just... It's like...
They were very bad.
Yeah.
It felt like they didn't trust the viewer with anything, and they were just like, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Mm-hmm. Which makes me feel like, you know, it's... Is patronizing the right word?
Was Predator 1 and Predator 2 written by the same people?
I don't know.
I have Predator 2's IMDb up here.
All right. While you look into that, I'll just round out the rest of this as... as Itisdpayne said, there's like some weird like tracking stuff. There's a whole team of government agents. Their goal is to freeze the predator in order to, you know, do the whole, we're the government, we capture things to dissect them, learn their technologies, and get all the sophisticated weaponry.
It was.
But
It was written by the same people. It did have a different director.
Oh, maybe it's the director then. But yeah, so then you have the government trying to like capture this thing, but naturally they depict it as an unstoppable force throughout a lot of the movie, like Itisdpayne said. So then when they go to try and capture it, bad things happen. It's actually smart. It knows what's going on. And then it's left down to the, like he said, the 1v1 with Danny Glover. And you want to know the thing that upset me the most about the ending of this? Is the fact that humans didn't win because we're human and we are also smart. Human won because we stole their weapon.
We stole a frisbee.
Yeah, we stole a frisbee and used it against him. Why is the frisbee allowed to be used by any species? Why is there no special interface for their frisbee that can potentially kill themselves? Like, I don't...
Oh, here's a fun thing that I also saw. Frisbee, at near the end scene where it's like, okay, it's time to end this whole fight. Danny Glover goes in there. The other thing is Danny Glover had like 3 chances to kill this predator, and then the first two was like, I gotta look at its face. No, you don't. Just kill it.
There's very also terrible dialogue when it came to it. They kept making misogynistic jokes about what it looked like, and I was just like, I get
well,
it.
And then it did. It also did a callback to Predator 1.
You're one
and, so
ugly.
and then it just like, wait, this is just Arnold's line saved in all Predator? Like, was Arnold the first human to kill a predator? And that's why they're like, whoa, hold on, let's save this line. But yeah, they do that, and so like the final, like, kind of before they, like, he kills him with the frisbee, it's like, because at this point, like, it's bleeding, and then there's
the first time it's ever bled in the entire movie.
And so, but there's a part where like he's aiming with the frisbee, there's no blood on it, and then it does a scene change to where he's like about to like close in on the predator, like right before he stabs him, and it's like there's no blood. Oh my goodness, there's so much like glow in the dark blood on this frisbee. Where did it come from? The other thing is that I thought was pretty neat. I liked how the ship looked.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why it didn't have doors and how it fit into the sewers of LA.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't understand that, but I like the interior design. Like I liked like the glowy, weird, like it. Like I think that's how alien ships should look. Just weird stuff.
Yeah, and then like they had the altar for all his collected skulls and everything.
Did you see the xenomorph skull?
I missed it.
It's let me see if Predator 2 skull.
Oh, as soon as I start to Google it, it comes up.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, Long Boy.
Yeah. Apparently all the skulls are different things.
Well, I would imagine they're all different things.
Well, like, I guess they're like cameos to other things.
Oh, okay.
Or is it...
All these are terrible articles regarding it. I just want picture.
Oh, yeah, I found one. Did you get
No,
one?
I have pictures, but like some of them are like circled this. This is what this one
yeah.
is, and I'm like,
To River Ghost. I don't know what River Ghost is. Yeah. Okay, so the large one, they said, resembles a T-Rex skull.
this one article just says like, hey, they had different skulls to prove that the predator hunts things on other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise. Thanks, article.
Yeah, everyone's like, let's see. Every skull in Predator 2. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Film. Trophy room. Probably belongs to the xenomorph itself. Let's see. There's a huge creature that resembles a T-Rex but has mandibles before eyes.
So they're not necessarily
Yeah.
references.
There's one that vaguely looks humanoid. I can't see what it is. Oh, probably the one that looks right next to it. That looks like a Geiger space jockey design. So yeah. Okay, this one doesn't even make sense because it's like. Oh wait, the Predator 2 trophy scene could likely be loaded for more Easter eggs. Oh, if it was shot. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it looks like it was just funky skulls, and then they just really like human skulls. A bunch. But, so, they did that.
Okay. Yes. Oh, okay. So then are you ready to talk about the ending of the movie and wrap up this episode?
Yeah, I'm just trying to just look, see if there's anything else. The only thing else that I wrote, where it's like in P1, where the fight between the predators seemed to be more skill and preparation, this one was just, I hope I get lucky.
Yep. I'm going to keep swinging, and this thing seems strong, and it did some damage, so let's just keep swinging.
It's me when I play Sekiro. But yeah, no, we can talk about the end.
Yeah. So there is technically a plot twist in all of this. Technically, at the very last, 5 minutes of it. And it made me question, do they already have the next movie planned? Because the movie after Predator 2 is Predators with an S.
That comes out in 2015.
No.
Predators?
Predator, the third one?
Yeah, that came out years later.
Oh, 2010. So why did they bother showing that there were 15 Predators on a ship?
So this would go with Alien AVP. This would...
that's what it sets up for.
I don't think it sets up for it because it's still super early for it. Mm-hmm. But, so, this explains it in AVP, and... Okay, you know what? Whatever. We're going to be watching Alien vs. Predator soon, so that's coming up soon. I'm spoiling it. I don't even remember what we said in the last episode, but in AVP there's a scene which kind of connects with when they throw the pirate pistol at him.
Oh, the 1715.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they're just like. Yeah, and it's like, hey, we've been here before, and or it shows that they've been here before, and then but anyway, as it goes forward, in AVP they're talking about how they find this pyramid and all this stuff that they go into, which they find signs and symbols in there of predators being here on Earth. And how they've been here before, and they're they find out wait, they've been hunting they've been using Earth as a hunting ground for like years and years and years and years. And then it kind of leads into, like throughout going to like they're trying to hunt the ultimate prey, whatever. We can get into that when we actually watch AVP. But there's a similar scene at the end where they kill the predator, and it's like they use Earth as like their testing ground. Because it doesn't do it in the first one, but in the second one, instead of blowing it up, like blowing themselves up, they go down, and it's the same thing. Like one of the predators dies, and then like the old predators come up and collect the bodies, and then they and then they leave, and it's a very similar thing where it's just like, okay, we recognize like you're someone who like can hold their own or something, and they get like the thumbs up approval or something like that. It's something very similar happens in Predator 2. I mean, in AVP.
Okay.
And like that AVP I think was probably pulling from this scene, but it's just like in this one it felt like they were setting up for a Predator 3. Mm-hmm. But then I think everyone's just like, this movie sucks.
Yeah, it's total butts. Please don't.
Yeah. So, and then they tried again with Predators, which that's what we're watching, and it looks like I read like a quick synopsis on it, or like a 1-sentence description, and it's like it looks like they're going back to, old like kind of how Predator 1 was.
Okay, I'll be more interested in that because this one was a mess of a movie. I would not recommend watching this if you haven't watched it already. I hope you just enjoyed our very fast-paced run through it because we had lots of problems with this one.
Yeah. So, I don't remember. Did we even say in the beginning that we're watching all the Predator movies? I can't remember. We just kind of just jumped into it because we're like, we need to get this out of our system.
No, I think I mentioned that on our quest of going through all of them.
I don't know. My brain went all over the place. I'm just...
This movie, it just melts brain cells.
Yeah. But yeah. So next week, Predators. You know what's also fun is like I'm remembering that I have to write descriptions on... Because right now, Better Off Ted is still being actively released. Mm-hmm. I'm like... I was like, I don't remember what happened in this Better Off Ted episode, because like I closed the like link and all that, and it's like I know I could just bring up the file again, but I'm like, I don't remember what happened in Better Off Ted. And so
that's funny.
I remember what happened in the last episode, which the recording of this episode is this Monday is when the last Better Off Ted episode comes out.
Okay.
So.
We're set up good
which means I gotta get so I get rendered and got everything set up for the Predator 1, and then I found out that I never changed the opening text to say what episode and what we were doing, so I had to re-render it. So
feels bad.
Yeah, but it is what it is. So
if you've made it this far, we want to say thanks for listening and or watching, and we always appreciate it. Sorry, my tummy is rumbling. D-Payne has a lot more water to water about.
I'm hungry. This is not sponsored, by the way. Like, it's just funny.
What was I going to say? But yeah, we would double appreciate it if you left us any ratings or reviews on your favorite podcast listening preferred service. Wow, my brain, my all my energy is going to my stomach telling me I'm hungry, but I know I'm going to eat in like maybe an hour, so I got to find a snack to keep me good for that. Triple appreciate if you interact with us at all on social media, Twitter, YouTube, etc. All these things will give you shout outs, and quadruple appreciate if you share us with a friend or a family member, enemy, coworker, teacher, student, any of that. And hey, if you are someone that's had the podcast shared with you and you let us know, we'll give you a shout out too. Why not? Shout outs for everybody. Anybody.
Shout out to Danny Glover. It gets better, guy. If you want to watch a good Danny Glover movie, watch I totally forgot the name of it. Gone Fishing. It is the complete opposite, where he is he's just him and Danny DeVito. Not Danny DeVito. Joe Pesci. There we go. Him and Joe Pesci just want to go on a fishing trip, and they get caught up in the hijinks.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie.
I was trying to remember where I remembered him from. The Lethal Weapon movies. That's
Yeah.
Danny Glover's bread and butter of the 80s.
Oh, no, I said the wrong one. Anyway, Danny DeVito, not Danny DeVito. Oh my goodness. Oh,
many
could you
Dannys.
imagine if Predator 2 had Danny DeVito being the main character?
I would absolutely love it.
Oh man, all the stuff that would be issues would have been forgotten with Danny DeVito, mainly because he's in something that covers worse subjects every week. Okay, I think we're done here. Anything else?
No, I'm waving goodbye to the
Okay.
people.
Bye.